Welcome back to this series. So let's now see how we can do something with this sample test that we're having here. So how can we now integrate Jenkins to GitLab, to source control systems? So let's say I'll be using GitLab. So let me try to create a Jenkins pipeline that will run when I do a push onto my GitLab. So probably we'll just create a new one, but I'll first come here into GitLab and just create a project. So I'll just log into GitLab and then create a project. Then we'll use that project to deploy into our server that we're having. So remember this server that we had here, the Ubuntu server, and remember we had logged into a console here. So I'll just log in back. So you can install stuffs like Nginx, Apache servers and stuff, but I'll not be doing that because I don't wanna make this tutorial very long. So I'll so that one will go into. So if you're using Nginx, you can host it anywhere. If you're using Apache, you can go to var www and stuff like that. Don't know if So right now we'll see that we don't have those folders, but I'll just be using this var folder. Then I'll just manually create a directory that I'll call full stack forge Jenkins. Just got it like that, or maybe CI. Say something like CI tutorial. Yeah, that's so long. Full stack forge tutorial. Let me just say tutorial. Yeah. So this is my directory. I'll just say full stack forge tutorial. Now this is where I'll be putting all my sample tests. So if I list in here, you'll see there's nothing here. So we want to deploy some codes into this. So I'll just create a similar, but not a must, but for me not to dirtify my workspace, I'll just create a similar repository in here. So I'll just come here and say create a project. So I'm using GitLab. You can use whichever other kind of application that you wanna use. So I'll just say create a project called Full Stack Forge. Don't know if I have a playlist here. Full Stack Forge I don't have. So I can just simply create first a group because I wanna be organized. So I'll just come to groups and then I'll create a new group here called Full Stack Forge. So I'll just say create this Full Stack Forge group here. I can create that and then just keep it public, and then I'll just say for you guys, you can the basics of Jesus code, blah blah blah, something like that. I'll just say my email is blah blah blah. I can invite members, create group. So I'll just create my group for Full Stack Forge, and then in here I'll create a project. I'll just create a blank project which I'll call Jenkins tutorial. So I'll just say Jenkins tutorial code, and then in here now I'll just create this project. So I'll just say it's public so that you guys can also see that, and then I'll just say create project. So let's see now how it goes. So back on our, so we have our repo in here, well set, with nothing actually. We don't have anything that's done on this, but I can just add a new file and say let's do this. Then I'll just save it as index.html, something like that. And then I'll just commit these and say is my initial commit into my main branch, and that's the branch. You can commit it in a different branch, but this is the branch that I want to use, and so I'll commit it to my new branch. So this is the main branch that I'll be using, and remember this is my repo. So in here in my repo, I'll share the link in the description. So what do we want to do on this repo? So remember two things that we need to do in here. So this is how it will work on GitLab. So GitLab will be here, and this is where I'll be pushing my codes to. So I'll just be doing a push here or a merge request and stuff like that. So once I push my code in here, this one needs to communicate to my Jenkins server. Right? Let me just write it very well. So this needs to communicate to my Jenkins server. which is on port 8080 of that IP address that I have that on my screen. And then in here, now to communicate to these, I'll need to either do an integration on GitLab or do a webhook the same. Still an integration, but webhooks, which works differently. So in here, this is now to do this inside Jenkins, I'll need plugins. So what's this plugin? So I'll need plugins like GitLab API to do this. All right. So I'll need this one installed onto my Jenkins so that whenever I push my code in here, it will automatically pull, or rather send a trigger to my Jenkins, and then just Jenkins will pull these items and then deploy it on my server here. So it will run some script. But for it to do this also, I need something called a Jenkins file, which I told you now we can either do this in the pipeline, or we can do this inside our source code and just call it Jenkins file. So this one should also be able to work. So that's where we are going. So we already have our GitLab. Repo. We already have our Jenkins server set, and now we need to install these. So this is step 1, we're done. Step 2 is done. So we need to install this driver, step 3, and then we need to do this one, step 4. So these are the 2 items that we need to do, and then our source code will be able to be deployed to our server. So that's what I'm gonna do in this tutorial. So already I have my repo. So what I'll do next first is go here into Jenkins and do some couple of items. So first I'll just come here, create a new item, or rather, sorry, I'll just first go to my plugins in here and install some couple of plugins. I'll just say install plugins, then I'll just say available plugins. I'll just say GitLab. So if I say that, you'll see there's this plugin allows GitLab to trigger Jenkins build. So you can use either plugins that you want. You can say I want to use this GitLab, or also you can use this GitLab API. You can read on what it has and stuff like that. You can see GitLab authentications and stuff like that. But for me, I just want to try this build GitLab to just initiate my GitLab triggers. That's one item. I also know we need this one, the GitLab for JAPI for other plugins. I also know we might need this, but let me first start with that. So I'll click install. That should be able to install my plugins. And then once it's done, it will ask me to basically restart my Jenkins. So I'll just tap on this, restart my Jenkins, and then let us see. So Jenkins restarted. I'll now need to put my user. I think it was terminate or something like that. If I'm not wrong, keep me signed in. Let's see. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so we are back in here. So I'll tap on Jenkins and then I'll be able to see my pipelines. I'll just create another new pipeline and maybe call it GitLab front-end pipeline or something like that. So front-end deploy pipeline. Just a sample, and then I'll say it's a pipeline. And then I'll just tap OK. I'll go to the next step, whereby now I'll be able to decide on whether what is happening. So I'll just say this one. You can put some description here and say this one. It's just a Jenkins file that deploys my. This one deploys my test files. Then that's it. So in here, now there's something here called GitLab connection. So we need to create these. So 2 items you can do a personal access token. So in here on GitLab, if you go into my profile here, just tap on your profile, I think, and then you'll come here, you'll see something like let me remember, where was these, let me see, was it on preference, or where is this? Yeah, so on preference, you just tap on this profile and then go to preference or any other menu here. Then it will take you to this profile update page, and then you tap on personal access tokens. So in here, you can literally, like what I'm doing here, you can see I have a number of tokens that I can use. So you can create a personal token by creating here, tap on new, and then you say token name, maybe full stack forge, test, CI, Jenkins or stuff like that. Then give it some small description. And then out of that, you'll give it, so you select the scope. You'll say maybe I need it to read repository and maybe read registry if I'm using images and stuff. And then maybe I can say grant access to the API, the read API. Then I think that's enough. Or maybe give it some more couple of, if you're using Kubernetes, you can give it Kubernetes proxy and stuff like that. And then out of that, I'll just create this token of mine. So once I have this token, you just see a token created here that your token is here, but it will be seen. So it's good to copy this. That will be seen. You only see it once, and then that one will automatically have created your tests for full stack forge token. So that one you can either use token or use GitLab user. So you can just tap here on connection. But before we go there, what we can do is we can go to first, you can go to create a connection. But then let me see. So let's first finish all these options so that we don't come back. So here we'll need a GitLab connection. That one will just create it in a minute. And then you'll need to set up a trigger. Let's say you want to set up a scheduler, or maybe which trigger will periodically do this. So this one is brought up by the plugin that we installed for the GitLab. So it will give you this option. If you don't have this, then you need to install the GitLab. And then remember, it gives us a GitLab webhook here, a URL automated generated. Remember this port that we had, and then project, and then GitLab frontend deploy. That's the hook to our pipeline. So this is what will be configured on the other side of GitLab. And then I can say I want it to, on a push event, I want it to pick those codes. If I open merge request, so I'll just pick if I accept a merge request. So these events for accept, meaning if someone opens a merge request and then I accept into my main branch, then this pipeline can run. The rest I'll leave them as that. Pick the option that favors you. Then I'll just say rebuild open merge. No, never do that, and stuff like that. Just some couple of setups. Retry blah blah blah. No, so you can go to advanced, see some items in here if you want to set. But for mine is very basic, so I'll just leave it as that. So I just want to pull events, and then this is the hooks that we'll be using. So in here in the pipeline, we might want to either do our pipelines here, which will check in the Jenkins file. Jenkins, you can just say Jenkins file sample for GitLab, or GitLab. Just say GitLab. You can find many for GitHub, blah blah blah. So I can just come here and say Jenkins is here. So I can just even try this AI mode and see what this one will tell me. So like this one, you can see this is the way that this pipeline is done. So I can just use this. I can just copy this and use this sample. So this is what will happen. So if I come to Jenkins and paste this one here, so first is I'll have you'll need to specify there is a JSON kind of format. So just say pipeline, then agent any, use any agent that's available, then option, I need GitLab connection. So here you will put our GitLab connection name that we want to use. That is what now we will create. And then you say we'll have different stages. Let's say if you're having a test stage, for example, and then this is the step. We'll pick maybe from, it will check out from the CSM and stuff like that. You can leave it as checkout, and then after that we'll build project. Probably if you have a stage for build and stuff like that. If you're using, maybe let's say it's a Vue or Next.js app, you'll run that yarn build or blah blah blah, or npm build, and then after that it will build the project. But for us, we just put a simple command here to say just build project, and then test, which will run project. However, in here we can still do an rsync, so we can still say our command is maybe even instead of echoing this, we just want a command which will rsync, or rather copy our file from our current directory into our server. So we'll need, like in here, to create now our login into our server, that is using SSH. So you can just say rsync into this, and then let's say if you're having, maybe you're using a root user, not do this stage because my server is live. So I'll just say my root user dot this IP address. Let's say my root user dot this IP address, and then so I'll just say my root at these, and then in here I wanna take them to maybe the folder that we had created, which was var, and then we called it, there's a name that we gave it. Let me see, there's a name that we called it. We said it's var.fullstack whatever. So this is what I'll pick and say go in here. So go in here and copy that file into this. So this is where my file will be copied to. So remember, this one you can also parameterize these. So I'll do an actual one so that you see with this one parameterized. And also you can parameterize your user, and if you're using an SSH key and stuff, those ones will set them up here. So this is how now you set your rsync command to just copy your code from where your code is lying and then send them here. So in here, instead of doing this, if you wanna also manage these Jenkins files, so upon success it will give you this one build success, upon fail it will give you this status fail. But then if I don't want to do this pipeline, so I can just come to my Jenkins here, to my projects on GitLab, and then in my projects, just come in here in this full stack Jenkins project, and then I'll just create a file in here. So you can use whichever version of your IDE that you want to use. I'll just say here new file, and then I'll just call it Jenkins file. This is sensitive in terms of camel case, and spelling should be exactly the same name, and then I'll paste all my items here, and then that being it, I'll just commit this change and save this into my main branch. So it means in here on Jenkins I can now say I want to pull this from my pipeline script from my SEMs, and then on SEMs I'll select JIT, and then outside JIT, now this is where stuff now begins. It will ask me for my repository URL, so I can come here on my URL and pick my repository. So I'll just click on that. Then in here on the code, you can copy this. You can copy HTTPS of the other one and then come and paste it here. So after I paste it here, now it will ask me for credential. Now remember, this is where we had our credential to either login. So let's say if you're having a private repository, you'll need to create some of the credentials. So you can create some by adding it here. Just say Jenkins, and then just say domain. It will be a global domain. So you can either use what I was talking about in here. I said you can either use your on authentication, or rather on authentication, you can decide either I'm gonna use my username and password. That is your GitLab username and password. Or you might say also I want to use my personal access token. That's the access token that we just saw in the previous, we just created in some few minutes ago. So you can decide either I want to use my username and password here, or I want to use my personal access token to do this particular item. So in here, that's where now this one will matter. So you might say I want to use GitLab API token, you want to use this private key, blah blah blah, or stuff like that. So if you select the other token that we had, you just say I want to use GitLab API token. Then once you select that, it will ask you for the token. You'll put it here. You just copy it from the other end and put it here, and then you'll give it a unique name. The good thing is on Jenkins, this question mark, you can click it and then see an internal unique blah 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 that will give you that. So I'll not go into details because I don't want this video to be too long. Yeah, but basically you can pick either. So you can pick even username and password, and then you just put your GitLab username here, and then maybe put your password in here. So for me, I don't know if I'm still having the, I think I still have the token. I don't have the token on my, I don't know if I can see it back, or I'll have to run it again. So we came here, and then we said any of these options, and then we said personal access tokens. Let me see if I can see it in this one. So this is what I want, but I think I can rotate it to just get a new one. So if I rotate it, I'll get a new token here. Then I'll copy this. After I copy that, I can come here and say I want to use my GitLab API token instead of my username and password. Then this is my token, and then this ID now I'll give it a unique. I'll just say some Jenkins, or rather some GitLab personal access token, something like that, and then I'll just say this is my access token from GitLab. That's it. So having this, now I can add it here. So this is what now you'll use inside your credentials. So you can just come there and say, because you've already added this one onto Jenkins, you can just come here and select that. So I don't know why it's not coming in here. Let me know in the comment below. You can even try username and password, and you see Samsung blah blah blah. You can even say treat that as a secret. So in here I can just say put some password in here, and then for the ID I'll just say GitLab creds. That's it. And so whenever any place that we want to reference, this one is very important, because whenever place that we want to reference this in a job or in any other configuration, so we'll need to at least name it as this to ensure that our job is running correctly. So just add that, and I think that one will now let us pick that, and let's say test. And then because this is a public repository, that's why even if it's none, still it doesn't give you an error because it's publicly accessible. But if it's not, then you'll need to, it will give you an error. So you'll need at least to select a credential or select a token to do the same. In advance, you can decide to put some names and stuff like that. In here, you just say the branch, you specify the branch that Jenkins want to pick your items from. So in here, you can say, I want it to pick from the main, because that's the branch that I'm having on my project. So let me just show you in here. So inside my project, sorry, just a second. So I'll say inside this full stack forge, and then inside my project, having only this one branch. So this main is what I'll tell Jenkins that you need to check for Jenkins and Jenkins files and stuff, those push triggers and stuff on this branch. And then that's it. So the rest I'll leave it at that. Script path is Jenkins file. That's it. So after this, I can now safely save this. Let me see GitLab connection. I don't know why this one doesn't pick, but let me see. So I'll just save it as that, and then you see. So in here, I'm expecting if I try to build the project now, it should give me some errors, and then I can now work backwards to try. And so if you tap on this, just click on build now, and then you tap on this, and then you go to console, you'll see some of the items which are happening. But for us now, we need to, so you'll see like here, for example, it's trying to rsync, no GitLab connection configuration. That's our first problem. And then trying to do this dummy that we had in here. So I'll do an actual one, and then I'll share these Jenkins files so that you can do an actual one from there. But let's first fix these. Let's first fix these no GitLab connection configured. So I'll just go back to this pipeline. I'll click on the pipeline and then go to configure. And then because in here it's saying there's no GitLab connection configured, I'll need to configure this connection. So let me go back in here into, if I remember well, I think it was here. Was it in security or credential? I'm not sure. Let's go to manage Jenkins, and then I'll just say system configuration. I'll just tap on system configuration, and then I think it was somewhere here. So let's see. Is there anything to do with GitLab? Yeah, perfect. So in here, I just come to GitLab, enable authentication for project point. So create a GitLab connection. This is what we want to create. So I'll just call this GitLab. Just you put a GitLab name, and then the host URL. Of course, this one will be my GitLab URL, like this one in here. So I'll just copy that and put it here, and then I'll just remove these ending slash, and then I'll just say credential. So API token for accessing GitLab. So this one I can just pick the GitLab API token that I created. Just pick that, and if there's no error, then that was well done. So it means even if I put my project, or rather my repo, to private, it should be able to still access that. I think that's all. Let's just save this. So I have now created a connection. So let's try to rerun, and then now we fix our pipeline. So one error should be killed, that for no connection created, and then we work on now activating or making this app now copy our files from our GitLab. So yeah, so that one is sorted. So selected Git installation does not exist using default commit message. So it has already checked out. You can see my GitLab command already checked out from this. So you can see recommended tool, blah blah blah. Remember, this is the initial stage that we had. Using this credential, that one worked. The version, using this one key, or rather the credential that I provided, picking these from this commit number, commit number, and then GitLab timeout, and then this is the commit message. I just said added new file for Jenkins. Selected Git installation using default, does not exist or using default. The recommended Git tool is none, is a credential, blah blah blah, and so many other stuffs on these. Still we have this GitLab connection not done. So let's now try and let me see in configuring this. Did we really touch this? So we didn't configure. Oh, okay, good. So we need to select GitLab connection in here. And then let me see. There's something you're missing. Yeah, so we need to select that there. And then now we can save this. I think that's the problem. We needed to select it first. So let's now do an actual copy. Let's now do a Jenkins file that you can use to copy that file from your GitLab repo to your to your server. So let's do the actual thing now instead of this test on the next tutorial.